Meet Fraser Mayfield, a digital recruiter, tech enthusiast, and a builder of extraordinary teams. His journey bridges technology and talent, helping startups and scale-ups turn big ideas into reality. From health tech to gaming, fintech to space exploration, Fraser has worked with innovators across industries.
Talking about risk, most entrepreneurs are, like you said, they are people who run into risk. Then find out how the thing will actually work. I read something sometimes ago, I think last week, that says that entrepreneurs, some who jumps off the cliff and then find out if they are a parachute or not. That's just an extreme test. So how do you? And I also appreciate the fact that you have a family that you are responsible to, because of the family, you make them out responsible. So let's say, you are the family, you are responsible to this family, and you have mortgage to pay, there are bills to pay. And for somebody who is not in that position of being made redundant, there is no COVID now. What will you tell them to get them to take the risk?
Well, I mean, if you've got obviously the less overhead you've got on it, the less risk there is. But you can also buffer whatever risk there is by factoring it into the business. When I set up the business, the biggest risk was probably stress, was a major factor. If I was sitting with a couple of months worth of money left on the table and I've got bills to pay and kids to feed, then the stress of that would change the way I work. And I work better when I'm chilled. It suits my style. So the first thing I did when I started the business was I roll in a 6-month buffer. So my number one priority was to put 6 months worth of mortgage away into the business, so that I didn't have to make decisions based on financials. So you can mitigate risk. You can take these things out of the equation. So firstly, you've got to understand what the risk is and what the biggest stressful factor of it is. But then you've got to look at how do you limit that? How do you mitigate it? And what can you do to change that? For every business, it depends what your business is, what those risks are going to be, and what's the thing that could be your undo. But I think what you need to do is, it's great saying that, the entrepreneur jumps off a cliff without a parachute, but actually I think entrepreneurs jump off a cliff with multiple parachutes. They've got different options that they can take. They'll take the risk, but they'll have options on the table, and they'll have calculated the risk, even if it's on the fly and it's in the back of their head, and they'll understand what they need to do to make this work. So I think one of the factors is just understand what your business is, understand what you want to achieve, and understand what's going to potentially make it fail, and then try to find ways to mitigate that.
Find out what will make the business fail and try to mitigate against that. So for somebody like you said from where you're working before is sort of sales role, where you have to meet a target, probably make times 6 of your salary before you get paid. And it helps you when you're now working, doing the same thing for yourself. You know the numbers, you know the quotas you have to hit. Building a brand, I guess, will make it easier. So I want us to talk a little bit about building brand for your business.
Okay.
How important is, building a personal brand or ongoing, whatever it is you want to do? How important has it been for your success?
There's a number of factors on this one. So building a brand for the first 2 years of my business, I didn't have to make a single sales call. I built relationships. I started that during lockdown, so the process was already 12 months in process. But by the time I clicked the button, it came out with the business, then I already knew what was happening in the marketplace, and I was already networked with so many people that I could just have conversations, and the business came to me because the right people knew the way I worked. So the other big factor that having a personal brand was, it meant that the business was coming into me was the right business, the right people, the right companies, the right approach. They knew the way I approached the market because I telegraphed about it, I wear it on a sleeve. So if someone wants to hire someone in the sort of environment that I work in, then they'll come to me. The wrong companies very rarely come to you. And because they've got no interest in what I'm doing, they don't care about my approach, they don't believe in my approach, and vice versa. I probably don't 100% fit with them. It's right. It's really personal branding helps you find your fit. So you don't have to go around hunting for the best customers. You don't have to go around selling yourself to companies to find who's going to be the right shape for your organization. Because if you got that personal brand and you share that story from the get-go, then you'll naturally meet these people. You'll align with people. And once you start aligning with a couple of people, they'll recommend you to other people and they'll recommend you on, and it'll just grow out. And it's a spider's web. You just have to keep it ticking along, and you have to have a consistent message. And you have to be genuine about what you're posting. I think a lot of people go out there to build brand to collect likes. Collecting likes isn't building a personal brand for you. Engagement is a good factor in it. But the majority of the business that comes in as a result of the stuff that I write and the communication that I have, most of it never communicates with me on LinkedIn. Most of it never comments or never likes on my posts or never engages with it in that way. It's sitting there in the background. And the amount of times I've got people coming to me and say, I know I've never commented on your stuff, but I like what you do. I'd be interested now in the chat about whether or not you could align with our business. Most of it you don't see on the surface. It's all what's going on in the background. That's the big piece.
That's impressive, man.
So I think personal brand, it's a huge thing in these days. But personal brand, it also has to align to your business. It's easy for me because my business is me. I'm my business. Foreign Careers, no one really gives a shit about Foreign Careers. Foreign Careers doesn't even have a proper website. I built it a few times, took it apart, and I don't even think I've rebuilt it. I don't use it. It's sitting there somewhere. I pay for it, but it's in pieces. No one really gives a shit about Foreign Careers. I'm almost irrelevant in the situation, and I quite like that because the only two important elements of my business are the people I'm looking for jobs for and the companies that want to employ. I should be invisible in that process. I'm an extension of both of those things. So I need to understand exactly what makes someone tick when they're looking for a new job, and I need to know exactly what makes a company tick and what they're looking for in a new employee. And then I have to match that. So my business is me, and it's not me at the same time. I'm almost that invisible glue that binds it all together. So it's really simple. So everything I write about is relevant to me and the business. Now, if you're manufacturing something, if you're producing something, if you're starting a business that's less of a service and more of a product, then personal branding's only half the battle because your product's the other half. You have to personal brand, but you also have to market. And I think probably in that situation, you have to find a blend with two of them sync together, because you can't market the business as one thing and then have your personal brand completely in contrast to that. You have to line it all up. And Farming Like Clicking the Way is really about actually having a message, sticking to your process, having personality, and leading into that. Not everyone's going to like it. It's not about likes.
That's impressive. About the conversation I had earlier today, and the person said what the mistakes they made was hiring the wrong set of people at the early stage of their business. And the question was, what mistake do you see businesses, people, founders, neophyte founders make? The kind of mistake you also made when you were starting. And the person talked about two major things. One of them was hiring the wrong people. So what advice, how do I hire the right people?
The way I hire it is all based on motivation.
What's motivation?
Right. So you want to hire a software engineer, right? You want to hire a software engineer. You have your general job spec and you have the company criteria. We're looking for a software engineer. We're looking for Microsoft development skills. We're looking for JavaScript skills. We're looking for, this is the wish list of skills we're looking for. That's what a bit of paper tells you. What I focus on is finding the motivations of the people I'm working with. So when you work with a software engineer, the first question I will always ask someone is, tell me about your situation, because it doesn't steer them in any direction. I mean, if I was to ask you just now, tell me about your situation, you could steer the direction in any way. It could be business related, it could be work related, it could be personal related, it could be what they've been doing that day. It doesn't steer the conversation, but it's a huge opener because it will tell you what's at the front of someone's mind. And then you start looking at what their career goals are, what are their aspirations, what do they like doing, what do they not like doing, and what do they want from the next employer, what path are they on, what do they not like, what's their approach to work, what sort of culture do they blend in well, what do they not like, what sort of people do they like working with. You start throwing all these sort of combinations together and you get a really interesting picture of what makes someone tick. Now, at the end of the day, the person that I'm speaking to is going to be a software developer, because otherwise I wouldn't have started the conversation. But that's a tick in the box. You're a software developer, you work in Microsoft, tick, right? I can tell the rest of that from your the company background of your previous employment and all these kind of things. I can see the career trajectory we've been on, but it's all the soft stuff that I'm interested in. It's what makes people excited. See, when you ask that question, someone's tone changes and they get that you feel that genuine enthusiasm from someone. That's what I look for. And you have to hunt for it sometimes. Sometimes people wear it on their sleeves, but you're looking for these little sparks of enthusiasm. You're looking for these bits of motivation. You're looking for the conversations that you start that people get really engaged in and start leading you down a path. That's when you can understand someone's motivations. Then, when you're speaking to a company, you need to understand what they need. What are they trying to build? They're looking for a software developer. Yeah, again, it's tick in the box. It's a 2-minute conversation. But what are they trying to build with the business? What sort of culture do they want to foster? What sort of people do they want to bring into that? How do they, what sort of way of working do they want? And what problem are they trying to solve by hiring this person? What's the challenge? What's the bottleneck? Right? All the stuff that's going well, that's great. It's going well. You're not hiring because stuff's going well. There's somewhere in the business something's not going right. That's the bit. That's the challenge. If I ever speak to a company and I say, what challenges are you facing? They'll go, none. Then it's not my client. I'm not interested whatsoever, because they're either A lie or they're B, either completely oblivious. And in fact, there's a challenge in the business. No businesses have got no challenges. Be honest with it, because the right hire will be the person that challenge appeals to. If you're looking for, again, they've got software developer and they've got a bottleneck within their stack, or they're looking to build a new product and they don't have that experience, that's the bit that's most important, is what don't they have within the business? Because then you can find someone that's motivated by that little piece of the puzzle, and the rest of it, people can learn, people can adapt, people have ability. You can quite quickly understand that piece of the puzzle. What you need to find is where the challenge is with the business and where the motivations are with the people, and that's when it clicks into place. And a lot of people miss that because they focus so much on skills and experience and how many years they've been doing the job and what they want, what they're already doing within the business. And actually, you just want to look at these little pockets, the little holes, the little challenges. That's where it's going to make a big difference if you get the right person. And if you get the wrong person, it's especially the startup space, the wrong person can set somebody's career back 6 months. It can fold a business if you get it wrong. And it's why I actually really like working with startups, because you can really get an understanding of where they are. And as soon as you hire that first person into a startup, the dynamic changes again. You have to almost start from scratch again, because the challenges change, the culture changes. You can't make a culture. It's a combination of the people that are in a business. You can put stuff on the walls, you can put all these motivational quotes, but company's culture changes every time you hire someone into the business. You can help form it, but you can't create it. It's like a growing thing. So every time you hire into a business, you have to look again. What are the challenges now? How has the dynamic changed? How has the culture changed? How has the personality style of the business changed? And where's the new hole? And then we bring someone in to match that. So you just have to be aware of every component with us, rather than the lot skills that you think are important.
So you did make a little mention about company culture, especially for a startup where it's a small team of 3, 5, 6, 10 person. How, Abi, and again, in my mind, when I hear people talk about, company culture, I know it is, for most people, from my observations, most of the time just buzzword. We are just saying it because we want to also feel among. How do you build a stellar company culture?
First thing you've got to do is understand what sort of culture you want to build, and then you've got to own it. So if you go back to like the traditional debate of hybrid working versus remote working versus 5 days a week in the office, it doesn't matter what your stats is on that. You've got to own it. If you want to build a culture that's 5 days a week from the office and you've got a reason for doing that, own it, embrace it, promote it. We're 5 days a week from the office because of this. This is what we want to do. We want to build an in-person culture We want to have people working collaboratively together. We want to see the whites of each other's eyes across the desk. But we want to do that. See, if you do 5 days a week from the office and then you start taking excuses for it and you start apologizing for the fact that you're 5 days a week from the office, then what's the point? If you're already apologizing for a decision that you'd made, then we're probably not making the right decision. And if you're hybrid working, then again, you've got to be looking at what do we want to do from the office? What do we want to do remote? What's the important bit that we do face to face? So once you start putting together what sort of culture you want, embrace it. Be positive about it. Build something that you're genuinely excited about because there'll be the right people for that. There will be people out there that want to work 5 days a week from the office just as well as there's people that want to work 5 days a week from home. What I've learned from the last few years of recruitment is everyone that thought they wanted to work 5 days a week from home, all of a sudden quite fancy having an office that they can go to, myself included, which is why I work a day or so a week from here, is to get me out the house. It's like, all of a sudden things can become very localized when you're sitting working in a whole office on your own. So there's lots of people out there that wanted that and did that, spent a couple of years, and now they're like, do you know what? It's quite nice to have some colleagues and some banter and some conversation that's out with these four walls. So there's people that fit every subculture. Once you have an understanding of what you want to build, embrace it and find those people, find your tribe. And start bringing people on, and then start bringing people on that'll shake that up a little bit. It's like adding to it. Diversity and inclusion is a huge thing, and it's an interesting one because you can hire a room full of middle-aged white guys and you can have a diverse culture. And someone explained it to me once as if you take 5 people who come from the same town and were taught by the same teacher at the same institution, they'll think the same way. Whereas if you take 5 people that came from different areas, were taught by different people in different institutions, they'll approach problems in different ways. So actually, diversity and inclusion, it doesn't really matter about how many women you've got the team, what cultures and religions you've got the team. Yeah, it's great. The more diverse, the better. I mean, it's huge for building culture. But actually just having people that different viewpoints and different opinions and different approaches to the work and different approaches to the way they do work can be massively helpful in building a positive culture. Because when you hit that roadblock 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line, the more people you've got looking at different avenues, different routes, different approaches, the more likely you are to overcome. So yeah, cultures is just like a living, breathing thing, and the more kind of aspects you have to it, and the more diversity you put into it, you can have kind of pillars to it. Where this is the way we work. These are the hours we work. This is how we approach things. This is our professional standards. But the more you kind of start building around that and bringing different people with different approaches to that, the more interesting it gets. Don't bring a load of people to think the same way, because you'll not learn anything new.
That's quite good. That's quite good. And